Well, if you're just joining us here on Al Jazeera, we've been listening live to the welcome to the beginning of the leaders' meeting at the Gulf Cooperation Council in the Bahraini capital. We heard from the King of Bahrain, he welcomed everybody, and then from King Salman of Saudi Arabia, who summed up pretty much the reason for their meeting. He said it's quite clear that there are critical situations in our region and we need all to live up to our responsibilities. He mentioned the bloodshed in some Arab countries, and he said that means that the GCC needs to be united. He also praised the efforts of the UN Security General in Syria, saying we regret the bloodshed, we must stop it and find a political solution. Let's bring in Jamal El-Shaila, our correspondent in Doha. Hi there, Jamal. So we heard a little bit of the opening speeches there. What's the real purpose behind this meet?
Well, Julie, I mean, first, before we delve into the topics that were discussed in those opening sessions, obviously we would prefer to be in Manama in Bahrain reporting on this summit. We actually tried as Al Jazeera to go. I've just returned from Manama myself. Unfortunately, the authorities there prevented Al Jazeera from entering to cover this. So we are still trying to bring to our viewers the latest news that is coming from this summit, despite the best efforts of the Bahraini authorities, who for no legitimate reason have prevented Al Jazeera from covering what is an international conference and prevented an international news organization from covering it on the ground. But that aside from the speeches that we have been hearing the purpose of this, obviously the GCC is the kind of mini union within the Arab League, which is probably the most efficient, for want of a better word, in terms of achieving things. The Gulf countries more or less see eye to eye on specific interests as well as perceived threats. So interests because obviously economically they share the vast wealth of the Arab world in terms of natural resources, oil and gas and so forth. And therefore this is something that brings them together. And in terms of perceived threats, they very much view that they are under direct threats from what they call the Iranian influence or expansion plans within the region. They point to, for example, Iranian involvement in Yemen. They point to what's going on in Syria and other parts of the Arab world as something that threatens stability there. Now, the idea behind this summit, obviously, it is it's not an unexpected one. It is one that's meant to take place as it is now. But aside from discussing these economic ties as well as security issues, they are looking to increase cooperation, particularly on the security front. But we heard, for example, from the Bahraini monarch there about developing even stronger ties in terms of building infrastructure between the countries, so high-speed railways and roads, in order to connect those countries even greater than they are from a practical and physical perspective, not just from an idealistic one as well.
Jamal, it was interesting listening to King Salman of Saudi Arabia. He said that the bloodshed in some Arab countries means that we need to be united. Can we read anything into that?
Well, I mean, it's rhetoric that will be welcomed by many in the Arab world, because they very much feel affinity to the ghastly scenes that come out on the screens every day from Syria as a result of the bloodshed and the war that's taking place there. But much more than rhetoric, it's very unlikely, because this war has gone on now for 5 years. The number of people killed is, people have just stopped counting in terms of hundreds of thousands who have been butchered. And all the while, the only countries that have been seen to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, have been Russia and Iran, who have followed through their rhetoric with sending military equipment and fighters and fighter jets in order to prop up Bashar al-Assad, whereas the opposition, the Saudi Arabian government as well as the Gulf countries say they support, haven't been able to receive the same amount of tangible support that would put them at least on par with the Syrian regime. And proof of that is what's been taking place in the past few days in Aleppo, where the one-time stronghold of the opposition is all but crumbling under the sheer military might of Russia and Iran. And the Gulf Cooperation Council has found itself maybe unable to prevent that, even from a political perspective, diplomatically failing to secure a UN Security Council resolution to even put a temporary cessation of hostilities there. So the words may be received well in terms of the rhetoric, but on the ground, whether that translates into anything, it's very unlikely.
Jamal Al-Shal there joining me there from Doha. Jamal, thank you. And we will bring you more from the GCC a little bit later as we hear more of the input from the speeches there.